guys, today's video is called Build Back Better. And no, I'm not talking about the World Economic Forum agenda during all the COVID craziness, but instead I'm talking about building yourself back up after you've had some event that's shaken you and taken you down a few notches. This could be a breakup, a divorce, a separation, the death of a loved one, losing a job, or just all the craziness in the world that's just weighing on you and has brought you down to a bad place, a state of weakness. And today we're going to talk about kind of building yourself back up from that point. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video is because I'm seeing kind of in the world, especially in young men, just kind of a discouragement, a dejection, and a sort of a giving up of sort of like young men that are in their 20s and 30s, which is sad, because that's really the time that you need to be building. That's when you're going to have the most drive, the most energy, and the most ambition. And to kind of be giving up in your 20s and just kind of saying, screw it, I'll just, smoke weed and look at porn and play video games is not a good place to be. Women have their own challenges, and I can't really speak much to that, but I've noticed it in a lot of young men, and this is something I know very well too. It's very easy to just kind of say, screw it. These little pleasures are right at our fingertips at all times. They don't cost very much. And so it's very easy to just give yourself over to them. And even though it's not what you actually want out of life, it's good enough. And it's enough to make you not actually have the drive that you need in order to, to build yourself back up. So let's take, for instance, a breakup, right? You're feeling dejected. You're feeling that the person that you love doesn't love you, doesn't care about you in the way you wish that they would. And so therefore you're kind of in this state of weakness, of emptiness. And you can kind of go two roads from there. You can give up. You can just give yourself over to your worst vices, whether that be alcohol, whether that be smoking weed, whether that be masturbation, video games, whatever it is. You can go that route, and typically when you go that route, it just gets worse and worse and worse. It just gets deeper and deeper and deeper into despair. Or you can take that feeling of rejection, that real pain, especially if you're a young man. Like it's a real painful thing to go through. But you can then take that and you can put it towards a healthy outlet, like maybe building your body back. And I'm not talking about, having to go all crazy at the gym and doing creatine shakes and this and that and becoming a gym bro. But there is really something to be said about that physical exertion that is a good outlet for that pent up feeling of dejection, of frustration. And so if you can harness that and put in your headphones and go beast mode at the gym, that's gonna help build you back. That's gonna give you a feeling that you're working towards something. And as men, we kind of have to be building something. It's sort of in our nature to always be building in order for us to actually be satisfied in life. And that doesn't have to be a business. For some people, that's not going to be it. For some people, a business is kind of the only thing that will make them feel challenged and satisfied in life. And for other people, it's not what they want to take on. And so, but you need to be building something, a family, your body, your mind, building something. It's why little boys in the woods will go out and just build forts. It's something that's kind of innate in us. And when you do that, you will have this feeling of satisfaction that will kind of counter all the pain that you're going through from this dejected state. It'll help pull you out of that state of despair. So the other thing you can do is not only be going to the gym, but you need to really be making sure that you're eating right. If you go down the path of despair, it's just so easy to give yourself over to junk food, to food that's not good for you. And even people who aren't in despair, fall into this trap just because, 90% of the food at the grocery stores is poison. It's all processed sugar and seed oils, which is just horrible for you. So, I think most people, if they were to actually just eat a diet that consists of meat, eggs, fish, vegetables, um, with maybe a little bit of nuts and things like that mixed in, but really limit the fruit, really limit any type of grains, and definitely cut out any processed foods, and avoid seed oils like the plague. They would see a drastic improvement in their health. And not only that, but they'd realize they have more energy, and they'd realize that they can actually eat as much as they want, and they would still be losing weight. So, a diet that's high in vegetables and protein is the diet that our bodies are most used to. It's the diet our ancestors have been eating, and this new way of just loading up on grains and sugar and all of this stuff is just horrible for us. And our bodies are proof of that. This is why so many Americans are suffering from obesity and inflammatory diseases. And so, not to get off track, but building your body back is going to mean giving your body the fuel that it needs to actually build itself. Another thing is building your mind. So, in that state of weakness, in that state of despair, it's very easy to just give yourself over to junk content, right? And so, just the same way that you could be eating junk food and giving your body just a terrible fuel, you can do the same thing with your mind by just endless scrolling on things that do nothing for you. Instead, you could be learning a new skill, you could be learning a new language, you could be um, learning any number of things, or even just learning about history would aid you in being able to discern patterns within the world. And so that would be a good place to start, and just kind of cut out the mindless junk content and really try to just limit what you're watching altogether. I understand everybody needs to kick back sometimes, but if you're giving yourself over to these things, you're not really building what you could be building. And at the end of the day, you're not going to really feel like you accomplished anything, and it's going to be harder to get out of that state of despair. So I'd say that's really the second thing. The third thing is if you can, build a family. I mean, there's really no more important thing that we could be doing with our lives, in my opinion. In most people's opinion, raising kids is the most important job they'll ever have. And unfortunately, a lot of that gets outsourced to the school, or to daycare, or to just the TV, the iPad. And I get it. Like, I have 3 kids. It's not easy. And you do have to kind of make compromises here and there in order to work and to make money and do all these things. But the end of the day, it is the most challenging, but by far the most rewarding thing that I've ever done. And I think there's something innate in us, um, as men, to be, providers. And even if you don't have kids, but be providing something to somebody. Maybe that's providing something to a community. Maybe that's helping out your neighbors. Maybe that's taking care of an elderly mother. But that act of selflessness, of being that provider, is something that is going to bring out a deeper, a better part of you altogether. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I get that the world is kind of in a crazy state right now, and that it's very easy to be lulled into a state of despair and giving up. But if you're a young man in your 20s or 30s or 40, I mean, don't fall for it. Don't give up. In fact, give yourself to Christ and ask God to guide you. Because when you start to do that and you stop trying to guide yourself, amazing things happen. Doors open and things become more clear. And what I have found as I've started praying, thy will be done, uh, it's kind of amazing how God starts to put your life in order. And this is finds itself in many different ways, but I basically, and it might actually seem that your life's getting more disordered, but actually sometimes it might be that you have to go through this so that you can come out on the other side and things are actually put in their proper place. That might mean going through a breakup, and you might not want to do it, and it might be really hard, but in the end, that might be actually what your life is, being put in order. And so I would say, at the end of the day, I know I'm not wise enough to guide myself. I know I'm, if I just give myself over to the things of this world, my worst tendencies will come out, and it'll just lead me down a path that's not a good one. But by kind of giving up your will and saying, look, Lord, I don't know. I can't guide myself. Please, show me the way. There's a real power in that prayer. And you will be surprised at how things just start to fall into place. And you become a part of something much bigger than yourself, and to where you're not having to necessarily find your own way. You're just kind of following the path that's been laid before you. And synchronicities start to happen that you can't explain. And so everything from maybe meeting that right person to starting a business to just overcoming some demons of things that are holding you back. I've had some deep seated hooks pulled off of me in the name of Christ, things that I thought I could never overcome. And then you realize there's this true freedom, that you realize that, I was a libertarian before I became an Orthodox Christian. And so freedom was kind of my highest ideal. And I valued it over all things, not realizing that I was actually a slave to my passions, that I was not actually experiencing freedom because I couldn't say no to these things, the things of this world, these little pleasures, whatever it was. And as soon as those started to be pulled off of me, there was this sense of peace. And that's when God's grace can come and basically be bestowed upon you. Look, I've been chasing feelings my entire life. That's what led me down the path of drugs and alcohol and all these other terrible addictions. But really, when you have the grace of God bestowed upon you, it's a real sense of peace and joy and just simplicity, that it's just, you don't. The reason I was always trying to alter my mind is because I wasn't comfortable. I was kind of always just in an agitated state. And now I feel this sense of peace and joy and contentment that I don't really want to alter. It's just my natural state is just a pleasant state to be in. Not saying I don't go through times of feeling, discouraged or this and that I'm not challenged, that I don't, hit moments of anger or whatever it is, that I'm not faced with temptations. That's not it. But it's just, that was my normal state, was to always be angry, to always be agitated, always be depressed. And I truly thought I could never be happy. I truly thought that's just a ship that's sailed for me and it's not going to happen. But, through the grace of God, I've been able to come through on the other side. And so I hope some people watching can do the same. I feel like I've truly been spared. And if there's one thing I could do, it's to encourage other people to not give up. This world is going to get crazier. Like, I hate to say it, it's not going to get any easier. So you have to orientate yourself in the right direction and trust in God, and He will provide all things. And at the end of the day, we're not called to just live a pleasant existence here on this earth. That's not what this is about. People see pain and suffering in the world and they think, well, how could there be a God if all this is, they don't realize this is a trial ground. Like, this is the arena, and you're in it, and you're in the battle whether you know it or not. And so people say, oh, you have battling demons, it's like, I wasn't battling demons. I was getting my ass kicked. Okay. There was no battle. There was a temptation and I would just yield myself. There was no battle. The only way you can truly battle is through Christ. He's the only one that can give you the strength that you need to stand up to these powers and principalities. Because, without Him, we are literally sheep among wolves. And so I hope, I hope that gives some people a little bit of encouragement. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling kind of discouraged, I know I've done some videos on depression and people have reached out. And if you're in that state, just know that it can and it will get better, but it really does begin with giving yourself over to Christ and asking God to guide you and to help pull these things off of you. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Talk to y'all later.